Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be with you, and I genuinely appreciate you carving time out of your day. I know how many different pressures you're all balancing just now, so it's much appreciated. Now, for those of you who I haven't met before, I'm Neil Foster from the Service Genie team, and today I want to have a very honest, very practical conversation about something that every board is now wrestling with at the moment, and that's not growth, that's profitable growth. So I want to frame that in a way that's not abstract, not academic, not even theoretical, but grounded in what we are actually seeing repeatedly across the UK materials handling market. Today is not a software pitch, it's not a technology deep dive, it's more of a conversation about margin resilience, execution efficiency, and recovering value that already exists inside your operation. So here's what I'll walk you through over the next half hour. So we'll start off with looking at the hidden forces currently putting unprecedented strain on service margins, which forces that most leaderships teams underestimate because they don't show up clearly in traditional reporting, where margin is really being lost. The three operational patterns we see in every single diagnostic, regardless of company size or structure, and how the Profit Accelerator that we've created here at Service Genie really works. That's a 5-day evidence-based deep dive that really quantifies where your margin is leaking and gives you a clear roadmap to how to recover that. Now, throughout this, I'm going to keep it really simple, but we're going to look at what's actually happening, why is it happening, and of course, most importantly, how do you get that margin back? So we'll start with some of the strategic context. Now, of course, as you all know, the material handling sector is at a really interesting moment just now. Demand is fairly stable, revenue for most organizations looks solid, and customer activity is consistent. Now, of course, on the surface, things look okay, right? But margins tell a completely different story. What we're seeing across the board is silent margin decay. And I use that phrase deliberately, okay? So this isn't a dramatic event. It's not an operational failure. It's not even a crisis moment. It's incremental, it's quiet, and it compounds every quarter. And of course, the biggest issue is because the erosion is slow, most organizations don't detect it until it's already taken root. Now, why is this happening? And when we look into this a little bit deeper, there's three major structural forces. First, we look at IR35 and wage inflation. Now, labor costs, of course, are increasing faster than service revenues, and that is in itself automatically compresses margins, even if nothing operationally changes. Secondly, the aging engineering workforce, and finding experienced, high-quality engineers is harder than ever, and replacing them, of course, is expensive. So training is expensive, retention is therefore unpredictable. And thirdly, the rising customer expectations. Customers expect more speed, more transparency, more precision, but without the corresponding flexibility on price. So the risk isn't that your service operation is failing. The risk is that it's leaking quietly and invisibly. And unless you're looking in the right places, it simply doesn't show up. And this, of course, is why operational truth, not just commercial data, is now the differentiator in profitable growth. And that brings us to where margin is actually being lost. And of course, when we conduct diagnostics, whether it's a business of 10 engineers or indeed 300, three issues appear every single time. And I say every single time because it's not most of the time, and it's not ever so often, it's not even frequently. It's every single time that these show up. Firstly, what we see is utilization drag. This is one of the biggest hidden killers of margin, right? So engineers are losing 1 to 2 productive hours per day. And it's not because they're slow or unmotivated. They're actually working incredibly hard. It's because of things like admin friction, poor or unclear scheduling, incomplete job details, systems that don't really flow, waiting time, and of course, travel inefficiencies. Those small friction points, albeit individually insignificant, accumulate into massive productivity loss. And that's where the gap emerges between paid hours and tool time. Now, these two numbers are rarely the same, but boards assume that they are. Second, we'll talk about parts leakage. Now, of course, this is the one that is hardest to see. A few parts not built correctly, a bit of van stock variance, some inventory inaccuracies. None of these look serious in isolation, but when you spread across 20 engineers across 12 months, that really does become a real material commercial leakage. And lastly, repeat visits. This is the real silent destroyer of margin. Second visits look normal on the dashboard, but financially, they can be devastating. Every repeat visit doubles the labor cost, it halves productivity, it disrupts the schedule, and it eats capacity you can never get back. Most organizations accept repeat visits as just the nature of the job, right? But in reality, they're a symptom of deeper operational friction. And here's the key message. Individually, these issues look small, but together, they're quietly removing six-figure margin every year. This is why revenue looks strong, while margins quietly dissolve underneath. So let's talk about the strategic insight behind fixing these. When margin pressure rises, leadership teams tend to reach for familiar levers, increase prices, adjust contracts, restrict headcount, or even reduce discretionary spend. And these are all logical moves, of course, but here's the reality. The fastest margin gains don't come from commercial levers. They come from operational execution. And what we see is a 3 to 5% improvement in service efficiency often outperforms a 10% price increase, and in actual fact creates far less customer risk. And it's not about doing more, it's about doing the same work, but without friction. So the insight is simple. If you control execution early, you protect margin long term. And this, of course, is the principle behind the Profit Accelerator that we've created here at Service Genie. So let's take a look a little bit deeper into the Profit Accelerator. Now, it's a structured, evidence-based 5-day operational deep dive, okay? And it's built for executives who need clarity quickly and without disruption. So here's what's important about the commitment required. It's going to be minimal leadership time. We don't take your managers out of the operation. We don't run workshops. We don't even need week-long meetings. No disruption to live operations at all. Engineers keep doing their work. Schedulers keep focused. Nothing changed midstream. There's no system changes. So as I alluded to earlier, this isn't software configuration, and it's not even digital transformation. This is observation, analysis, and evidence. And of course, at the end of the 5 days, what you'll receive is a quantified, annualized margin opportunity, a prioritized execution roadmap, clear ownership lines, and a set of evidence-based recommendations. Okay, so to reiterate, it's not theory, it's not generic consulting slides, it's your operational truth surfaced quickly without disruption. Okay, and so here's how the 5 days unfold. So starting between days 1 and 2, that's when we're focused on baseline reality. We look at what is actually happening and not what is assumed to be happening within your organization. And so some of the things we analyze are around tools time versus downtime, scheduler efficiency, what the admin burden currently is, the job information flow, and what are the real world friction points as they stand. And this is where leadership teams often say to us, we thought we knew this, but seeing the data is eye-opening. Okay. When we look at days 3 and 4, that's where the focus shifts to margin leakage. And this is where the numbers start to speak clearly. Now, we examine things like parts consumption versus billing, van stock accuracy, repeat visit patterns, cost modeling for second visits, and operational behaviors that really drive hidden cost. So these 2 days usually reveal the 6-figure opportunity with forensic clarity. And then finally, we look at day 5, and that's where we start to build the executive blueprint. So we bring everything together into a board-ready commercial view, and we focus on areas such as annualized savings model, where are the quick wins, where are the structural fixes, the execution sequencing, ownership mapping, and finally, we look at operational and commercial alignment. So the value is not just in the savings, it's in the clarity that blueprint unearths. You know exactly where margin is being lost and exactly how to recover it. So when we say between £100,000 and £250,000 in annualized savings, I want to be very clear of where that comes from, where that derives from. It's not a forecast, it's not even a model, and it's certainly not a hypothetical scenario. These are identified, attributable, operational savings already sitting inside the business. Examples of those include recovered engineer hours that convert directly into billable capacity, eliminated repeat visits, corrected parts billing, reduced waste, better first-time fix outcomes, and of course, higher utilization of high-value labor across the business. And we achieve this without, as I say, increasing headcount, adding software to the business, or indeed changing your existing commercial model. The value is already there. And so the question is, are you capturing it? One of the reasons boards engage with the Profit Accelerator so quickly is the commercial structure. If we cannot identify at least £100,000 in annualized savings, we absorb that cost. So that means, of course, your risk is minimal, your time is respected, the engagement itself is evidence-based, the result is commercially aligned, and so it's a simple, transparent, outcome-based approach. And of course, while the savings matter, and they absolutely do, many executives tell us that the biggest long-term value is the clarity that they gain. Because once you have operational truth, then of course future decisions become dramatically easier. You gain a repeatable framework for diagnosing performance, transparency between operational reality and reporting assumptions, a solid justification for future investments, and of course a clearer view of where technology should fit and where it won't help. And so of course it shifts the conversation from managing a supplier to partnering on profit. So at Service Genie, our purpose is simple: to help service organizations extract maximum value from every hour, every part, every visit. As I alluded to earlier, we're not here to sell you software, and we're not here to push a product. We expose hidden inefficiencies, and we translate operational data into executive decisions. And we enable margin recovery at pace. So the Profit Accelerator is simply the entry point, not the end state. And so to move forward, the commitment required is straightforward from yourselves. Approve the 5-day Profit Accelerator. And once you do, we schedule a short scoping call. We confirm light data access, and we set the executive briefing date. And so, of course, what that means is that within days, you have a board level view of where margin is being lost, how much is recoverable, and which actions will deliver the fastest return. It is, of course, the fastest, lowest risk way to get commercial clarity. And so, of course, the strongest service organizations won't be the ones with the most engineers. They'll be the ones who extract the most value from every engineer, every part, every visit. And that's what winning looks like in the next decade of materials handling. Okay. And the Profit Accelerator is designed to make that visible and actionable. With that said, thank you for your time today. If you'd like to explore the Profit Accelerator in more detail, or indeed discuss your current operational challenges, myself and the Service Genie team would be delighted to help. Now, I'll stay online for the next 10 minutes or so to answer any immediate questions you might have. But if not, again, thank you very much for your time today, and hope to hear from you soon.